It is. So I'll call the meeting to order, November 25th at 4:30 p.m. And we can start with a roll call. We do have a quorum: Mary Hoffine, Tony Mancuso, Aaron Lindbergh, and Jerry Place, Laura Walter. Start with citizens to be heard, and it looks like, unless there's somebody online. Yeah, we do have somebody online.
If you are online and you would like to say something, be sure to raise your hand on the electronic raise your hand thing. Or if for some reason we don't see you, you can unmute and address us.
Give them a sec. Okay. All right, next are ex parte communications and disclosures. Do we have any today? Okay, then let's move on to approval of the meeting minutes from November 12th. And I was not present at that meeting, so I wouldn't have any comments. Does anyone have any approvals or comments on the meeting minutes?
I move to approve the meeting minutes for November 12th, 2024 regular planning commission meeting.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Mary, second. All in favor? I'll abstain. Moving on to the next, we have presentations. Trish.
I wasn't at the last county commission meeting. I had a meeting up in Vernal and so missed that. I noticed that the only thing that was relevant to you guys was there was a public hearing for community block grant for phase 2 of Arroyo Crossing as far as the infrastructure. I don't have much else. We're just deep in the throes of budgeting. It's not a lot of fun. We don't have a ton of money. So if you're asking for money, please be kind. I just paid my taxes. I know. That's it. Yeah, exactly. You're like, I just sent you money. But yeah, we're definitely kind of showing growth as far as specifically like TRT or TRCC is, you know, really pretty flat, or like it's like 0.5% growth. So that makes it hard when people want a lot. Yeah. Questions, comments? You awake, Aaron? Oh.
Thank you.
Thanks, Trish. Okay, next we go on to general business. Action items, discussion and consideration of approval. Actually, am I on the wrong one?
Yeah, actually we have a
We have a
public hearing. Yes.
I skipped one. Sorry about that.
That's
Amy.
all right.
Okay. Amy, do you want to take over here?
Sure. So I'll give a little background. Do you want? I'll put the packet up on the screen so you can all see it. My computer will cooperate. Okay, so this is back in front of you. This is the major utility ordinance, and it was passed by the county commission. They had a regular meeting October 1st, and then it was approved at the following meeting, I believe. Oh no, it was adopted on October 1st. I apologize. So sort of what happened after it was adopted is we had an applicant come in requesting a utility. And Mikkel and I sat down. It was a pre-application conference, and we realized it was hard for us to give them a clear answer as to whether what they wanted to do was a minor or a major utility. And so I brought it back to the attention of commission administration and the attorney's office, and we shared it with the county commission, because I think what happened is what was intended to be adopted didn't exactly get reflected in the language that was adopted. So I have all kinds of versions I can pull up here for you. But so that kind of led to some discussions, and the county attorney advised us that we needed to send it back through the process again because it may actually change what things are minor and what things are major. So that's why it's back here. And while we had another chance at it, I did make a few other edits that needed to be made. So I can pull that up. So I'm still getting over my cold, so I apologize. And so the purpose of this was to remove a major utility as a conditional use in all zoning designations, and instead require that all major utilities apply for an overlay. So the purpose was to create this major utility overlay. So I made a little cleanups while I was in there. I consolidated previous sections R and into section Q. I'll show you this in a table later. There was one telecommunication facility line that kind of confused a lot of us when we looked at it the last time. And it was mainly for this campus that was up on, I think, Bald Mountain or something. And so what I did was I just consolidated it with an existing site. It had the same requirements as any other existing site. So I consolidated those two. So if it's a brand new site, it's subject to one set of requirements. If it's an existing site and people want to co-locate on it, it's subject to another set of requirements. So I just cleaned that up a little bit. There was also, we had this transmission facility in here, but there was no definition of what a transmission facility was. So I'm adding that in. We can go over that as well. So that was just a little cleanup I did at the same time. So what happened here is,
Can I jump in?
yeah,
But because you said a thing, the radio campus on Bald Mountain is an interagency facility,
okay,
and I would anticipate practically all of anything that relates to that facility being the latter that you mentioned. The like interagency or meant like shared facility.
a co-location, yeah.
Co-location, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what that is.
Okay, so this, I just moved the language around a little bit. So originally the Bald Mountain was kind of in its own section, but I just moved it into section Q because those are all existing structures as well. So the same language still applies. I just consolidated, okay? And then provided an explanation for what a transmission facility is. So I looked online, found a bunch of different versions, but this one was pretty all encompassing, and I thought it handled it really well. So at the moment, a transmission facility just was never defined anywhere in this code. And so I added it as R, and if you look up back to the table, for transmission facility, it's conditional use everywhere, and I just added 3.3R so that people could go there and realize what even is that. So, so I added that, and then we'll get into the major utility. So, and I can pull up previous versions, revised versions, but this is sort of the gist of what happened. So, this is what should have happened. So in the table, it was broken down into minor utilities and then major utilities. And so the purpose was to remove the major utilities and put them not included in this section. But what happened was the way it was done was a little odd, and the minor utility header got put down where that redlined major utility header is. And so it, and I'm pretty sure that wasn't the intent. And I can pull up for you the other versions as well if you'd like to see them. But see if I do this, it won't work. Hang on. Oh no. This might work. So this was this is the adopted with the ordinance. This was the adopted red line version. And so if you can see, what happened is, for some reason, the minor utilities all got crossed out. It got moved down to the bottom. I'm not really sure why. And then the major utilities got crossed out, those got moved over there. And so when you look at the clean copy, what happened is, I'd really like to know how to make the thing go away.
It's the little X to the right of all tools. Down to the lower right just a little bit. No, the other side, left side. See where it says all tools near the top? Look at the little X just to the right of your cursor. Hit that little X. There you go.
No, that's not what I was looking for,
Oh, I
but
thought you were
thank
gonna get
you.
rid of that.
I'm just trying to move this so I can even see it, and it won't let me.
You can go minus on the lower right and make that whole thing a little smaller
So
or drag it over a little.
anyway, what ended up happening here is, so this is what ended up happening in the adopted version, is you'll see some uses listed, and then all of a sudden you see minor utilities in a semicolon and more uses listed. So that's the gist of what happened is, for some reason, that minor utility header got put in the wrong place. And so there was some confusion about what our cell antenna, what our telecommunication tower, what are those things? Are those still minor or are those major? So, so what we did was we sent around a red line version of what I think the county commission meant. And the few folks that responded say, yeah, that shouldn't have happened. So the minor utility header should have stayed at the top. And only these things should have moved over. So that's sort of what we determined. And then, so this was the clean copy of what we think should have happened. So you'll see minor utilities header is at the top, and all those things there are listed as minor. And then you'll see over here the major. So we believe that was the intent, but because it changed the header minor, the attorney felt that we needed to take it back through. So the other thing that we worked on, let me get back where I need to be. Not really sure where. The other thing, share my screen here again. Okay. There we go. So that's the corrected version that you see here in your packet, where the minor utilities is moved back up and everything is sort of as it should be. The other thing I did was just clarify, there was also some confusion amongst the public about the language water towers, comma, or tanks, comma, or water standpipes. So I just clarified that this is for waste treatment plants, water treatment facility, water towers, water tanks. So I just wanted to make that clear. And then as you head down to the major utility overlay section, there were just a couple of grammatical errors and one code referral section error. So I cleaned that up as well. There was there was also some concern that we didn't include any standards or stipulations with this. So I did a very, very basic stab at it because I had a lot of other things going on. So what was in the last one was, it just said, as well as other stipulations the commission may deem necessary for approval of a major utility. So I redlined that and I'll show you what I did instead. So under applicability, I have purpose and uses. So major utilities are those facilities needed to support development serving a limited area and a specific development, the citizens of Grand County, the region, or the state. So that's pretty broad. Examples are waste treatment plants, water treatment facility, water towers, water storage tanks. Over here, it was not exactly clear either. So I redlined all of this and just said all uses considered minor utilities in section 3.4.8J. Okay. Then I added a really basic section that you all are welcome to spend more time on tonight if you want to, or this can come back another time to really delve into this. But I just added, in addition to the standards of the underlying zone, the county commission may, at their discretion, require increased standards when a major facility is proposed directly abutting a residential zone or residentially developed property. The following shall be considered for the development of any major utility. So this is just putting people on notice that we may consider doing something different with your setbacks, buffer requirements, height limitation, all those kinds of things. I did specifically say abutting a residential zone or residentially developed property. I didn't get into any other zones that might be next to you or anything like that. So this kind of covers any residential zone. Or any property that might be zoned highway commercial but is residentially developed. So I didn't get into what those might become. I didn't have time to do that, but I really wanted to make sure we got in here with the limited time that we had that, you know, you might be subject to increased standards based on your proposal. So that was all I did for now. So you're welcome to talk about that more and add to that if you want to, or we can move forward just as it is and then revisit it later as we need to. So, okay. Any questions on what all went down and what I did?
Thank you very much for revisiting this. Just gonna leave that alone. In that last paragraph, there's one phrase on the second sentence. You say standards when a major facility is proposed.
Oh, sorry.
I think utility rather than
Agreed.
facility. Yeah.
Agreed.
And other than that, I don't feel, since we do love to pass ordinances and then change them in the following meeting, I don't really see the need to dive into what we'd call them exhibits A through F right now. I consistently don't understand how you guys get this much work done in a red line in every 2 weeks, because yeah, good job.
Thank you. I've noted that change. Thank you. Oh, yes. So if you look at, yeah, hang on. If you look at the table, there you go. So all I did to transmission facility was add that section with what it is. And then I just added new site to the first line. And then I added existing site to the other right. That is all I have for you.
I was just, I thought you had cut these here, which was like right there, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes,
Okay, got it, I'm sorry, 5, and then it's broken, 1 and 2. So
Right.
I just didn't think.
Oh, yeah.
I thought you just pulled it up and then.
no problem. Yeah, so this went under 3.2.3Q, which is where existing tower or structure was. And then R was all by itself. So I just scratched that and put it under Q. And added and made R the transmission facility. Okay.
This is just another little kudos. Appreciate that you specify electric transmission facility in that clause. I've been approached in my time about installing transmission lines, only to find out that they mean natural gas lines.
Ah, yeah.
So the phrase can be used interchangeably, and so
That's
it's good.
true, yeah.
It is good to specify that we mean electrics.
No, it definitely, yeah, I'm learning, there's like, I think somebody mentioned at one of our meetings that it's amazing how many types of utilities there are. And if you don't know that world or that realm, it's easy to miss something for sure.
Do we handle gas transmission in here?
Well,
In this
if a-
document,
Well,
or only existing?
question, Jerry. So we do have,
Natural gas.
natural gas pumping station.
You don't have a pumping station without a pipeline. That's interesting.
Pipeline is running. I agree, it's massive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
There are 2 3-foot trunk lines that go under the river right underneath Clatchy's old place.
Yeah.
They're big.
I need to pull up the code to see, so give me a second here.
I guess it would be good to identify that as either a major or a minor at this point anyway, wouldn't it?
No, it would.
Gets substantially technical. Because the same natural gas line that's going to serve, 1.5 black iron to a residence, 3 inch. We would want it to be a minor utility. But that's oftentimes the same development that would like go up to a transmission line and then a trunk line. It's nice. And this is going back to what I said originally. Boat drivers and city planners and stuff like that really don't have very much business being hyper technical about like utility science and the way it's implemented. I just we can keep shooting in the dark and we can keep coming back to this ordinance, or we can do this the right way and have a public meeting and sit down with Williams and sit down with everybody. Do it right away.
So maybe in that case, it'd be better to set up a little to-do list and attack these in order.
Yeah, that might be best. I'm looking at the actual code right now and, we don't exactly address gas transition lines.
Well, and then there'd be
Transition.
oil transmission too, I
Yeah,
suppose.
so, let me just look at the proposed code again really fast.
We're into this discussion pretty well, and I think at some point we should probably have a motion so we could get into the discussion, and then
Thanks.
we could take notes, and we could
Thank you, Jerry.
either vote to thumbs up or thumbs down or delay. So does somebody want to make a motion? I think there's a proposed motion in the notes, right?
Thanks, sir. I can kind of wing it. I will move to make a favorable motion to the Grant County Commission for the adoption of the revised ordinance that addresses major and minor utilities, with the recommendation that further revisions should be conducted with stakeholder survey and input.
Or a second?
No, Aaron's got it.
Aaron second. Okay, Aaron second. All right, so we open for discussion.
It's important, I think, in the context of regulating utilities to understand that utilities are not necessarily exactly like private corporations all the time. We tend to be really nasty to large private corporations in this community. Whatever. Utilities, particularly water, power, and natural gas utilities that provide critical public infrastructure in the state of Utah, are board driven and governed by people appointed by elected officials. And they really, most of the time, 95% of the time, are excellent partners. And a lot of times in other parts of the state are managed as community cooperatives, like the Electric Association and Desert Power Association. We should not be so pushy with utility companies who very much literally, we have the cheapest water in the country, right? In the second dry state. Little philosophy for you, I don't know.
You know.
Any other comments about the proposal that we have in front of us?
The only thing I was thinking was the question about the gas lines and things like that. It could be added to our transmission facility. We could add it as, you know, A and B. So A is an electric transmission, and B could be gas transmission, but I don't know if we want to go there right now.
I would.
All right.
Recommend that we do that.
Right, we will wait.
Thanks.
I'm guessing that wording as it is in there has been in there for a long time,
Which wording, Jerry? I'm sorry.
regarding the gas pump stations. And the
I would
distribution
imagine
lines.
that's been in there for a while, correct?
And
yeah.
the distribution lines, that's not come up as a question before, so it's probably not a lot of harm if we ignore that one for a while.
Okay.
Okay.
Said, right, they always work closely with the county. I don't know, anytime, because there have been times when they had to go through. I guess monitor them, whatever they do, and they have actually built the one going north of town. And they worked with the county closely, but I mean, they weren't permitted by us or anything. Like Tony said, they're their own agency. By monopoly, utilities always do what they want. And they make the most money.
We don't have a railroad.
Yeah, that's right.
I did have a question about the conditional use table. Could you pull that back up again? Or the uses that are conditional and permitted?
I didn't touch any of these.
Okay.
Just so you
but
know, for this
I just had
revision.
yeah, if you could pull them up, put them on the screen again.
So this is all that's in your packet. Are you wanting the
Just on-
entire?
The one that you had up there earlier, if you could just put it on the screen again.
Okay, give me a second.
So we can, that way we're all looking at the same thing.
But you're wanting to see the code as it is now. is
Yeah,
what you're
well,
telling
no,
me?
the proposed is fine.
Well, the proposed is what's up.
It's not on,
Okay, so
it's up on yours, I guess.
there we go.
There we go. All right. So on this one, the question I got is on the telecommunications tower side. For existing, it's permitted all the way across. And for new, it's conditional in only a few places. And what I see when I look at that is that basically what we're doing is we're going to allow new facilities in the middle of nowhere and on 191, basically. And I guess the only heartburn I got with that is generally they like those towers to be up high, and 191 is down low. And I don't know from a practical standpoint if that really amounts to a whole lot, but I mean, it seems to me if they're going to put towers down low, they're going to need a lot more of them than if they put them up high. Is that something we really wanted to do?
Yeah, I'm not sure, Jerry. I didn't touch any of those. That's how they've been. I did wonder about that myself, just in the sense of they're allowed in almost every zone for the existing site, all except for resort commercial. But for a new site, you're absolutely correct. It's not allowed in that many zones. So I don't know the history on that or where that came from, but I didn't adjust that at all.
And the other issue about not having it allowed in residential is generally that's where people live. So, you know, we're basically not allowing towers where some of the usage would be the greatest.
Well, the permitted uses don't, where they're permitted in this one. There are not any sites there. Most of our towers are, well, ordinance was written, towers were only allowed to be, we had to be 5 miles apart. I think that's still in there, right? So I don't know that we have any towers in SLR, LL, in fact, I know we don't, LLR, RR, or MFR, except for the one that's at the fire. They have,
Yeah.
theirs
There's,
was put in as an emergency site.
I don't know what it's zoned, but there's one right out of Royal Crossing. In Royal Crossing.
That sure, and I don't know how that ever got there.
Yeah.
I have no idea how that got there. I'm not gonna question it. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know that it was ever permanent.
So the Ps here only allow you to do, is it additional antennas, additional structures, an additional tower at an existing site?
On,
I like-
on existing
I'm
sites.
gonna be the millennial for a second and just point out, like, with the existing infrastructure we have, we've got great cell connectivity in the valley. And we're going to need fewer and fewer towers as new signal technology comes online with satellites and wireless internet. And we'll in the next 15 years, we're gonna see towers coming down, not going up. So I wouldn't burn ourselves too much on this.
That's-
My first year, they were gonna put it in OSAP, no fence, wanted to change their configuration a little bit, they just said. Right?
Wow.
That's fair enough, but
Huh.
I heard there's one going out on Sunny Acres in San Juan. Could be. Because
Okay.
actually, the towers have been out in Spanish Valley farther out, isn't it?
You gotta come in from the cold, Trey.
And the regulations for cell towers is pretty tough. There's a lot of things they have to put up.
So I had one more question in regards to this. Are temporary towers regulated in some way? Like for events? Or do they fall under this, or do people even use them?
Do you mean if there's a special event and somebody has one of those towers on a trailer kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
I would think that would be under the special event permit.
They're just temporary. They don't stay.
All right, I didn't have any other questions. Okay. So I guess we can call for a vote. All those in favor, do you want to reread the motion?
Not exactly.
I'll
let Tony restate.
All right.
just to clarify my intentions here, I'm moving to send a favorable recommendation for the revised utility ordinance as presented by Amy Weiser, with the recommendation that further revisions to the ordinance be conducted through a stakeholder involvement process.
Perfect. And
Second
Aaron
that.
seconded.
Oh, very good.
So all in favor? All right, unanimous.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Tony, for your timely and technically excellent comments.
I am sorry I didn't print out the packet today. I'm just gonna.
Oh, it's all right.
Okay, Barry.
All right. Next, under discussion items, we have a letter from Ricky Epperson at Community Rebuilds. And Aaron was gonna lead a discussion on that.
Yeah, so there was a few emails that went around with Aaron and Ricky Epperson and Aaron suggested that maybe we put this on the agenda just as a discussion item. So I asked Ricky if she'd just write a quick letter for us to put in the packet, and she did. I apologize, I have not read the letter. So Aaron talked with Ricky, so I'll let Aaron take the lead on this, but and I'll read the letter while Aaron's talking.
Yeah, so, I happened to talk to Ricky about this, and to me, it's like they're on the forefront of our affordable housing thing, and they've used this PUD density bonus. But their issue is, Arroyo Crossing is starting to wind down. And so they're looking for new places to do projects. And one of the things they like to do that I think's interesting is they take a lot and basically split it in half. So what, like, what she's basically asking is, hey, can we like split these lots in half and kind of deny their ADU availability? So you're not, the density potential wouldn't be going up, right? So it's like, hey, her thing is, and I agree with her, but we don't see that many ADU applications. And personally, I would like to, but she's like, people have a hard time building one house. Now, it's like they're not building two. And so is a couple things. And then the other thing would be to look at rural residential and its ability to be included on uh, on this PUD. So I just am like, when she was mentioning that like, oh, we're having a hard time finding places, like what's this mean for the future of our program? I was just like, definitely like, I feel like we've spent a long time on this future land use map, and I feel that, we've kind of had some timed out things with the HDHOs timed out, the ADOs timed out, and I feel that I, you know, when I looked at our future land use map, I'm like, yes, we're losing single family homes. Are they being replaced by some sort of housing that addresses the people that make this town go? And so that's where I'm just like, that's where I see kind of the issue with this. And I think we need to keep plowing forward with affordable, attainable, you know, market protected housing. So I think we should take this kind of seriously and discuss about, how much we want to touch rural residential. How can we fit this framework of our future land use map into like what these guys programs, what they're seeing works, like smaller works. ADUs don't necessarily works, but like could we, get smaller lots but not raise the density. I think that's what she's kind of like getting at. So, I mean, I would like to be like, what kind of, you guys are the people that make the rules and all that. And I'm like, how do you see, I mean, I guess all of us, like, how do we see that happen? Can that happen? I Trish, you're, rural residential defender. You sent me a sticker the other day and I was like, well, like what can you give like in that?
I did that. I guess funny to find it, in the future land use map, it does open up. I mean, I thought quite a bit of the valley in theory could be rezoned. I mean, already. If you look at the areas that were, there was a big chunk in there
Yeah.
that we're giving them higher density.
Yeah.
So I would think that right away, that there's, a benefit for her, but
I would, I completely agree with you that affordable housing is like the number one issue that the planning and zoning should be working to address here. I think there are a lot of things we haven't tapped yet, a lot of ideas we haven't set up. We, and you're also right, have taken a bit of a break from the affordable housing conversation while we've been working on the future land use map. And it's not a ball we should let drop to the floor. We gotta pick that one back up and throw it in the air. I think for like moving forward and making the ongoing discussion about affordable housing as productive as it can be for this group or this meeting and the next one a year from now. We need to maybe get on the same page as far as our institutional memory goes. We're a relatively young planning commission in terms of our tenure on the board. We don't have this side of the chair, a lot of institutional memory about, oh, we had this overlay and it timed out, or we were doing this and we had this idea and then the legislature passed a law that says we can't do that. And so before we start having really bad good ideas, I think maybe we might like a very, I don't want to give you guys more work, but like before we start this conversation up in earnest, a very quick staff report about the legislative and ordained ecosystem around affordable housing as it exists in Grand County, what we've tried, what stopped, what got shot down, and just give us the backstory of how we got right here. So then we can talk about the future, because there are so many things we can't do market controls. The legislature won't allow us to do that, you know, so there are like, and that's, we haven't actually brought that up since like 2017, you know, so let's contextualize the conversation first and proceed.
No, I think that's a great suggestion, Tony, and yeah, staff can certainly do that. We can. Yeah, and we have a affordable housing task force, so I know they have a good history of some of that too, so we can all put our heads together. And they might even have that done already, but we'll, yeah, I think that's a great idea to hand out, and I think, and thank you, Aaron and Tony, because I think Aaron, is like Tony just said, it's like, it's time to resurrect this conversation again, and so, I will tell you that, Aaron asked if we could talk with Thomas from CZB, who's our future land use plan consultant. He has a lot of great ideas about how to incentivize housing. And so Aaron asked, hey, I'd love to just meet with you and, you know, talk about some of that. And I think Jerry or Bob O'Brien, Obi and Aaron, I think we're going to start that conversation with Thomas. And so
That
I'm sure-
section about the public-private partnership,
yes.
like, I see like our HDHO, right? Like, these were all like bonus density incentives, and that's the game we play, right? Like, we give density, and it's like, well, you know, is there other things as that? I mean, we've had some black eyes on some programs, we have some good programs, and it's like, what more can we do? And then this thing with Ricky, what I really saw, I mean, I just think it's an interesting thing that she's the point that she brings up 2 points, but the one that really caught my attention is this, like, we don't want ADUs. We want, like, we kind of want like 2,000 square foot houses instead of like a 1,500 square foot. And it's like the same footprint, but like, so it's like, oh, like, I think that's a path to be like, this is what one of our people is asking for.
Yeah,
And
that
then,
seems
like,
like an easy one, right?
it does seem
You're
easy.
saying, I'm gonna take away your ADU ability, but you can split your. land.
Right, and so like, hey, there's a deed restriction right there, you
Yeah.
know, like, and it's like, okay, like, yeah, like that's what they're kind of asking for. And then the future land use map, I think, addressed her other issues, but I'm just saying that, like,
Yeah,
you know, I wanted to bring that up, so.
No, I appreciate that she's offering some ideas. And that's another thing that I think this group would be good for this group and the county commission to do, is to have a very pointed meeting with stakeholders, with people that are out doing the building and doing the development and doing all of this. It's great to sit down and what is working for you guys, what is not working for you, what would you like to see, you know, and so it's great that Ricky's throwing out some ideas here in her letter, and I think it'd be helpful to hear from other developers in town as well. You know, what would they like to see happen? And so it's a good time to do that, and it'd be great to have a workshop. It could be a, you know, a public open workshop where people can come and address you guys and tell you what they think would help or not help. You know, as always, you know, there's complexities to, well, it seems like this would work, you know. so in an ideal world, yes, but then there's all kinds of other considerations. And so that's where we take all the ideas, let's get everybody's ideas, and then really look at, okay, how would we have to change the code to make that happen? Or can we even do that? Or, you know, so I think gathering those ideas first is really helpful. And then, okay, could we do this? You know, okay, we can't with the code the way it is now, but if we change these things, we could. And, you know, does that affect anybody else if we do that? You know, all those kinds of questions. So, but I think it's great that, that this is coming up. So it's good.
I have a random staffing question for you. You guys had a bid set up until 4 months ago or something. I mean, I'm just wondering, it would be really nice to put somebody in place that like, that's their directive, right? You guys are all volunteers. I get paid, but I'm spread fairly, you know what I mean? I'm just, anyways, just, I don't know where you guys sit with, I know they're hard to find.
Well, it's an annual application process, right?
Right,
So,
yeah,
so there's it opens up for the application once a year and then you know, you have to get it in the 2025 budget
Right,
because it is a cost share. We do pay a
Yeah,
portion of, right? So, and I appreciate that comment. In my experience, I have found that, housing issues can be extremely complex. And, you know, a lot of, bigger cities and counties actually do end up with a housing person on staff, right? Where, they really, it's their specialty, they devote their time to it. I love the Vista program, and Vistas are great at, hey, go research this, tell me everything you can, you know, go see what everybody else is doing, you know, and boom, they're on it. They're smart, they're, you know, they're motivated. But when it comes to, seeing how that will work in the community or in the code, that's a different level,
I
right?
understand that.
Yeah, so, but yeah, for research and all of that,
Right.
it's great. Yeah, so, and I know that, you know, at different times we've had Vistas do different things, so, yeah, it's always a good option.
Just trying to get you some help. And
Yeah.
it has to be cheap.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I would also like to see, you know, with the incoming commission, like that workshop, like a
Yes.
dual workshop and being like, hey, like what do you guys want? What are you guys willing to do? Like, do you have some direction in it in setting out for the next year, like a timeline of like,
Yeah,
hey, let's, do kind of put these things. I'm looking forward to the opening that thing with Thomas on the above bonus densities, but I do think we need to check in and I don't know what the next step is now. So
Yeah, well, I think setting an annual goals is always a good thing. You know, what does the planning commission and the county commission want to accomplish in 2025 as it relates to housing, right? So I think setting annual goals, 2-year goals, 5-year goals is a great way to do that. And, yeah, yes, exactly. And we have the 2023 Affordable Housing Plan that also sets some of that. So I think pulling that document out, as the planning commission and as a county commission and saying, well, what did that document say we're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Because are we doing it? So,
like 100.
you know, it's a great, January annual check-in. And then for this commission to make some goals for 2025 and send them to the county commission and say, hey, this is what we want to work on this year.
Yeah.
You know, what about you guys? And I think that's a great idea.
And the housing authority has a lot of good information too.
Oh, yeah, they do.
They have, the history, how many houses are out there, how many they need, how many, and you can get that right online.
Yeah, and I remember Laura Harris. Those guys presented. I just feel like we've done a bunch of stuff that's like, oh, hey, like there's some changing faces.
Did we
Yeah,
kind
let's
of
get at it.
did we capture something here in that conversation that we could put in future considerations? Which is, what would that be, a joint meeting with the county commission regarding housing and, well, what did you suggest for January?
I would say January is always a good time to sort of, you know, you reappoint your new chair, your new vice chair, you have new commissioners coming and going, and it's a good time to do training. It's a good time to set goals for the year and
That's-
review the existing documents. And hey, you know, this says we were supposed to do this in 23, but we haven't done that yet, you know, and kind of going through those checklists. It's a great time to do that.
And I think another thing that'd be good for the new commission members would be to review that future land use plan, because my guess is the new members are not too familiar with that.
Oh, yeah, well, a lot of us aren't too familiar with it yet, so, absolutely, yeah, and I know that I know a lot of them came to the open house and the workshop that we had, so I know they're aware of it, I know that they know what's going on, so, they're probably waiting to see what the end result is before they really dig into it.
So can we put that in a future consideration for January then, as a goal setting or objective setting for the year?
Absolutely.
Any other discussion on this topic? Aaron, thanks for bringing it up. That was a good conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny. I was driving by Emily houses and they like flagged me down.
We need to do it.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Get pulled over by civilians.
Right. It's like, I thought it was a plumbing emergency.
Okay, we'll move on then to the next citizens to be heard. It's not 6 p.m., but we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Do we have anyone on that wants to participate in citizens to be heard? I see we do have a couple people on.
We were just here to get a taste of this and learn who the players were. We're looking at, I'm sorry, this is Nick Skolmoski. I'm not a resident of Grand County. I'm actually up in Murray, Utah, but we have some work that's looking like it's going to start breaking in Cisco, Utah. And so we're trying to just see who the players are, who we need to be in contact with, and make sure that we are not stepping on any toes, make sure that we're following all the regulations that are within the county. So you'll be seeing the Skolmoski name in there quite a bit. Lee is my brother. He's in Texas right now. So we're all over the place, but we're just trying to make sure that we're not stepping on any toes, and you'll see us.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate the introduction. Okay, anything else for citizens to be heard? Not, the rest of those are just us. We'll move on to future considerations. Anyone have future considerations? Okay, we already captured one. I had just probably mainly because I was not here in the last meeting for the future land use plan, but I did have a question about that, and that is where do we go from here? I guess the county commission has got a hearing scheduled for December 3rd.
Yeah, so December 3rd is the public hearing at the county commission. And then, as I was saying to Trish earlier, sometimes, typically, they deliberate and make a decision at the following meeting, which would be December 17th. They do have the discretion to approve something that same evening if they so choose. But it's scheduled for December 3rd. And the goal is to get it adopted by the end of the year. So December 17th is the last meeting of the year. And they do have the ability to have an emergency meeting, I think, on the yeah. So yeah, but it's the last regularly scheduled meeting. So the goal is to get it adopted by then.
So
And then next steps, if you look at the last couple of pages of the plan, it talks about what are the next steps. And so one of those is what Aaron's kind of kicked in already, is kind of talking about one of the options for getting some more housing going is the public-private partnership idea. So that was one thing that Aaron wanted to talk with CZB about. We also want to talk about the code revisions. So the next step really is, once you adopt a new land use chapter of your general plan, is a code revision.
Right.
So in my 2025 budget, I think it's still there. It's hanging in there. It's hanging in there. Is some money to hire a consultant, because what we're hoping to do this time is a complete land use code revision. And so what's happened is since 1999, there's been little piecemeal code revisions, just like you see here tonight. And so the goal is to adopt a brand new land use code in one fell swoop as a package that it all talks to each other, it all relates to each other, it relates to the new general plan, all those kinds of things. So that really is the next step, Jerry, as far as you have the general plan and that gives you the guidance. And then you have to implement that guidance in your code. So we have to maybe create new zones. We have to create new standards for things. We have to, just really get into it and say, okay, let's implement what this says we should do.
And so that would be on the agenda for 2025.
That's the goal. Yeah, we would need to do a request for proposals and go through that process of choosing a consultant. So my goal would be to hit that as soon as January comes, the holidays are over, we would advertise for it and then hopefully have a consultant on board by like the end of February. It's sort of a 6 to 8 week process to get through the RFP process. And then I would love to see something done and wrapped up with a bow by, fall would be fabulous. So it's a process. It'll take a little while, but getting a consultant is really the best way to do it. They just go through it with a fine tooth comb. This just ends and nothing matches it, and it's going to be a repeal and replace. It's not going to be a revision. It's going to be a whole new code. So that's the goal. So that's really going to keep you guys busy. In 25, I think there'll be a lot of meetings on that and direction to the consultant, direction from the county commission, direction from the planning commission on what you'd like to see in the code. So that'll keep us busy, and working on housing options will keep us busy too.
There's one specific question I had is I was glad to see that the bubbles for the nodes made it through. And I think that's a great improvement. It's a really good way to move forward. I think we had really good support in the community meetings with that. But at some point, those bubbles need to turn into something on a zoning map. And I guess that's what you're talking about. That's one of the changes that would happen in 2025.
Yeah, correct. With that new land use code, we would also adopt a new zoning map. Yeah, so it would all.
And somehow in that zoning map, we would show where the extremities of those bubbles sit.
Correct. Yeah. So as we talked about the general plan, when you see the place types, it's kind of a bubble
Right.
drawing, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't exactly follow property line,
Yeah,
but the zoning map will. So
Yeah.
that's where you would have a little bit more public comment when you're working on the zoning map.
yeah.
Someone might say, well, I really wanted to be included in that compact neighborhood, and it's right next to me. Can I be included? Right. So
Yeah.
that's where some of that comes in. Yeah.
The other thing that concerned me a little bit with the bubbles is they were small and our needs are bigger than the bubbles. And I assume that's part of the 2025 work too, is when you decide that we'd be looking at estimates for, what's our growth going to be and how much room do we need and so on.
Yeah, absolutely, Jerry.
Okay.
Was just gonna suggest, ask for clarity. A general plan is a 10-year document, supposed to be, I know that's squishy, but in general, it's kind of a 10-year document. It would be very wise, this is more for like Trish and the commission. It would be very wise to include in this RFP a very short paragraph about market analysis for the cost of planning services projected out to 2040, 2050, so that the county can start putting some money away so that it doesn't have to be 30 years, because we can get through the plan revision. Statute administrative rule code changes are nightmarish. It is not cute little pictures. It is a psychotic brain work, and it's expensive. It is way more expensive than cute little pictures.
Yeah.
And so we should be prepared fiscally to pay for this in 2040. and again in 2050, like put it, plan, savings account that. So the next time it comes up, we're ready, like. Because that's just, isn't that the Green County way to like get surprised about this bill that was coming for a decade?
Okay, anything else on future considerations? All right, we've run through the agenda, so I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Aaron, do we have a second?
I can second that.
Laura? All right, all in favor? Good.